Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Clever Girl. I am your host, Rachel, and today we are going to be exploring the topic of loneliness. But first, I'm going to give you a little life update. So, we're in July now, which I feel like is crazy. My mom just came to visit me last weekend during 4th of July, and it was actually really fun. She stayed overnight for the whole weekend, and she brought her puppy, who's like 6 months old, and she's already bigger than Penny. And she was just like a crazy ball of energy. It was insane. My mom and I just got to do like our favorite mother-daughter things, basically. Like, we went to a lot of yard sales. We went to an estate sale. We did a puzzle. We just got to hang out, which is all I really wanted, because as I'm going to explore a little bit with today's episode, I've been feeling like pretty lonely. And I think I talked about this a little bit in the social media is making me depressed episode. But I just think that there's something going on right now, or there's something in the air, or it's like this time in the world or this time in our lives that like everyone I know is feeling very lonely. I don't know. I feel like for me, it's complicated because I work from home, obviously. Once again, my cats want to cause problems. I swear to God, it is so annoying. It's literally every time I start to record, he like starts fucking with something, with my plants, with my other cat. Like, oh my God, he's so annoying. It drives me nuts. Like I was saying, I feel like the circumstances for me are, I don't know, probably not very special. I work from home, but I also have a boyfriend who I see very often. But to be honest, like, he's the only person I see very often. And I think that is really difficult for me as a very social person. Like, I'm not really introverted at all. And to be isolated all the time is really difficult. And unfortunately, my job is not the type that lends itself to like working in a coffee shop, because I'm handling confidential information. I'm having confidential communications. I'm doing public court hearings. So being in a coffee shop or even like a public shared workspace, like a WeWork or something like that, wouldn't really work for me. It wouldn't really be appropriate. I just couldn't do it. So it's difficult. Like, I really only see my boyfriend. My friends come and visit when they can. I go home to visit when I can, but it's not that often. And I have tried really hard to make friends in Santa Barbara, and I felt that at my last job I did have friends, because I would go into the office and like talk to these people every day, and I felt like we were actually friends. But now that I've left that job, because that job is all consuming, and because of some drama that went down when I left, I only really have one friend from there that I see regularly, and and even him I don't see regularly. Like, he is kind of a flake. And I've tried to make like a weekly hangout or a bi-weekly hangout or a monthly hangout with him, and it just never works because he's just got a job that he is consumed by. So it's tough. Like, I'm going to try to talk about some things that I think will help with that. But I just think like there's like, obviously this is going around in the zeitgeist, and there is like a loneliness epidemic going on right now. Originally, this idea started with me wanting to talk about the male loneliness epidemic. Now, because I have had a few hard weeks and like have been going through some of my own lonely moments and time period, like, I just want to talk about that. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's just right now or if it's just me. Well, I know it's not just me, but I feel like there's something going on right now, and I just have a couple of theories about what it might be. To back up a little bit, I was talking to my mom, and she's kind of feeling similarly. Like, she's been feeling very lonely. My mom also lives alone, but she watches her grandkids, my nephews, pretty frequently, like almost every day, or at least 3 times a week. And she sees my brothers pretty often, but I think she's just feeling a lack of connection, just like I am. And I think like not having friends close by is just really difficult. And then I was talking to my best friend, and she was kind of just talking about the same thing. It's just like she feels like it's really hard to get together with people, and like people are always so busy now that we're at this age, and you know, people have kids and stuff like that. So it's just harder to make plans and to see your friends. And I totally get that. And I think like definitely being in our 30s now is an element of that. But I also just think there is something happening in our world that is leading to a lack of connection or a lack of ability to connect. And it's really unfortunate that I happen to live so far away from her specifically, because we would hang out all the time. We're like the type of friends who don't need to do anything together, and just having somebody with you to just watch TV and stuff is nice. It's something nice between like being alone all the time or like watching TV by yourself and then like living with a partner, because I think there's just a lot of pressure with living with a partner or like hanging out with your partner who you don't live with, because you're trying to be like lovey and stuff like that. And with a friend, you're just hanging out, you know? So, and eventually, you know, you get there with your partner where it's just hanging out, but that might not be until you're living together. And that's where I'm at with my partner. So I just don't feel like he and I can just hang out on the couch and do nothing, because I just feel like he's bored, you know, and I don't want him to be bored. So I think it's just a combination of all of those, of a lot of things, like what I said before, like being this age, and then lack of connection and lack of like really valuable social interactions. And on top of that, it's like really hard to make friends in adulthood. I wish I was better at this, but I have a lot of theories about why it's gotten a lot harder to make friends, because obviously, usually, honestly, friendship comes from proximity. Like you become friends with somebody because you're with them a lot, you know, like your high school friends, you see them at school every single day of your life. And your college friends, it's very similar. Like you live really close to them, you go to classes with them every week. It's all just proximity. And that is why when I left my last job, it was really difficult for me, because I had friends there. I had made friends that I saw every day and I talked to every day and I worked with every day, and we were kind of going through the same bullshit together. We were trauma bonding, all of that. And then that went away, and now I'm by myself every day. So like there's no proximity to anybody. And even if you do work a normal job and you don't feel like you're friends with the people that you work with, you can still feel really lonely, because you don't have in proximity to you people who have similar interests or like are in the same age range or whatever it might be. I think it might just be part of adulthood or becoming an adult, but I also think there is something to what's going on right now. So I did a little bit of research, literally the smallest bit, because I was trying to find more opinions on the male loneliness epidemic to start with, and kind of where that spurred from. And what I learned is that I think it spurred from people wanting to study, psychologists probably, wanting to study loneliness in general. And then the findings of those studies came out that men struggle more, or men have a higher rate of feeling lonely or self-identifying as lonely. And according to the American Medical Association, loneliness is now identified as a public health issue, which is interesting because like that kind of to me means that enough people feel that way for it to be something that these medical institutions or medical associations think that should be addressed on a more national scale. And some of the findings were that about half of US adults experience loneliness, which presents a major public health threat that is akin to smoking and obesity. Is that not insane? Like, it's akin to smoking and obesity. That is the level of problematic. That is like the number of people that must feel so lonely that they're depressed, or so lonely to a point of having medical mental health issues, is as bad as the number of people who were dying or getting lung cancer from smoking or being plagued with diseases from obesity. Like, that's so crazy. And I read through and skimmed through a bunch of articles, and really the general consensus is that there is a lack of connection. And I think that like connection and that word, the definition needs to be a little bit more refined, in my opinion, because we live in an era where the ability to connect with people is so much easier over the internet than it ever has been. You know, you can connect with people over the internet and you can have a valuable connection with somebody, but I think if it is primarily or exclusively only over the internet, the quality of that connection is low. It's very low compared to the quality of a connection with somebody you have in person. Because of social media and of other factors, connecting with other people, truly connecting to a degree that like it is benefiting your life, it's becoming harder and harder. It's becoming less and less frequent. And my guess is probably because being vulnerable over the internet or over text is not the same as doing it to somebody's face. It's not the same as saying things out loud to a person in front of you. It just simply isn't. Like, it's not as difficult. It takes less courage, in my opinion. I'm not saying it takes zero courage. I'm saying it takes less courage than it does to say something out loud to a person. And it doesn't elicit the same response from the other person that would normally come with somebody being in front of you. And it doesn't elicit a response that would result in a real bond with that person, in my opinion. It just doesn't mean as much because it lacks the meaningful part of communicating in that way, which is the meaningful emotions. And I mean that like literally emoting, like the other person's facial expressions and body language and the physical touch that could result from that. That is all absent from a connection that you try to make over the internet. And this is so random. I just thought of this, but it's just something that I found was happening a lot. And I think a lot of women can relate to this. It just happens a lot with dating and guys who want to match with you on a dating app and then text with you all the time for 2 weeks, never meet you, and they trauma dump on you. They want to tell you all of their like deep inner feelings because there is no consequences to that. And whether it's beneficial consequences or negative consequences, it's either way, it's nothing. Because if you respond to them negatively, if you respond to somebody being vulnerable to you over the internet or over text negatively, they can just delete you or block you and never, ever see you and never, ever have to address what they said ever again. So really, they are not facing it. They're just throwing something into the void. And if you respond positively, they're not getting the benefits that they would get if you actually knew each other and actually spent time together in person and you were able to like really show them how meaningful it was to share something like that. So this kind of, I think, lends itself to this male loneliness epidemic thing that's been going on, is that men, I think, just don't know how to connect very well. And it probably comes from like toxic masculinity, that guys just aren't taught how to handle their emotions, and they don't really like connect with their friends on an emotional level. It's very superficial probably. And the only people that they really like open up to vulnerably are the women that they are dating or their girlfriends, which is not great. Like that's not something you should put on your partner exclusively. Like obviously it's something that you deal with in a relationship in general, and that's why you have a partner, for emotional maintenance and stuff like that. But if that's the only person you've ever told this to, then like that's a problem. So I think it just obviously needs to come with practice, but I just found that guys are doing that all the time. Like I can remember a specific person when I was like, I must have been like 21 or 22, and I had matched with this guy on Bumble probably, and he was an EMT or a paramedic or something, and he worked in an ambulance, and he would just like tell me stories of like horrific things that he's seen. And he once sent me a picture of a bloody gurney, and I was like traumatized when he sent it to me, or when he would tell me these things. And I told him like, that's traumatizing. Like, why would you tell me that? And he would just say like, oh, well, yeah, it's traumatizing. Like I have no one to talk to about it. And I'm like, and he would send me like paragraphs on paragraphs on paragraphs about how it affected him. And I had never met this person in person. This was someone I had matched with on a dating app. And after 2 weeks, he never wanted to hang out. He just wanted to text me, and we call those pen pals. It's just, yeah, like disturbing stuff. Like you need to seek therapy, I guess. Like, I think this whole male loneliness thing, the result of that, obviously, or to me, like the solution to that is they all need therapy and they all need a friend. And I'm not trying to say either of those things is easy or simple, but like that is the solution. And it's a solution to anybody's loneliness. Less so the therapy for everybody. That's, I think, for the guys who don't know how to be vulnerable enough to make a genuine friend, but or are trauma dumping on women, or are just like trying to be vulnerable with women only over text. That is a whole problem in and of itself. And obviously, like the male loneliness epidemic has turned into this like taboo subject that kind of equates itself to incel culture. And I'm not sure that that is my takeaway from that. Personally, I do think it is an element of incel culture, but I think they are just Venn diagrams that cross. I don't think the loneliness is fully engulfed in the incel circle. So yeah, do I think guys who are like incels are lonely? Yeah, for sure. And do they blame women for their loneliness? Yes. Are women actually at fault? No. So there's that. I think the last thing that I wanted to add about the male loneliness epidemic, which I think I already hit on, but I think this more hits the nail on the head, is that men, men are suffering more from loneliness, and a greater number of men in their 20s and 30s are experiencing loneliness that's causing them mental health issues or causing them to be depressed. And I said all the things that I said before, and I sympathize with the difficulty in making friends. However, I think with men, there is a deeper problem in that even given the opportunity, they are not vulnerable. Given the opportunity with a friend, given the opportunity with a woman, they're not truly vulnerable in person. They can do it over text for some reason. Maybe they can do it over the phone sometimes, but it's just to another person's face. I think they really struggle, and that's why they resist therapy so much, because to be honest, I think they just don't know how to cope with their own emotions. And to me, like, if you're given the opportunity to connect with somebody and you don't take it, you just don't get to complain about being lonely. If you have opportunities to cure that problem and you don't, like, it's gonna be hard for me to really sympathize for you. Yeah, that was just the last thing I wanted to say about the male loneliness thing. Just getting back to more of like the grand loneliness issue, the public health issue of loneliness. I have a few theories about why or how we got here. The first being COVID. And these are not in any specific order, but I do think that the COVID pandemic and the stay home orders and everybody being isolated and locked in their houses really stunted people's social skills. Like, I was 25 when that happened. And, you know, that is a crucial time in your adulthood where you will be making friends. Like, I had just started law school and I was just starting to create bonds with people. And then we had to go fully remote. And I only ever saw those people again when we made a real effort to link up with each other. And now in, 5 years down the line, it's a lot harder to see them. And I just think the isolation of COVID and staying home, and I think the fear that a lot of people had in like getting sick or getting other people sick or anything like that has made everybody's social skills much worse. Like, I remember, like trying to date after COVID and not really feeling like I knew what I was doing, like in public, I guess. Like, I would go on a date with a guy and I would feel like nervous because I would do things that in hindsight might not have been appropriate, but I would do things that, like I would touch a man when we were on a date. Like, I would be like, oh, I really like your hair. Like, I really love curly hair. And sometimes I would touch it, or I would like grab their arm and put my arm through their arm, but I didn't want to do any of those things anymore because I was scared that they would be like put off by it, because we'd gone through this whole time where like touching and being too close to strangers or whatever, like would transmit a virus that could potentially like harm somebody. So it was just like a really weird time. And even now, like I feel like my social skills are not back to normal. Like, I'm definitely better than I was in 2022. But I'm not back to like normal. And I don't think I ever will be, because socializing has just changed so much since COVID happened. And on top of that, just, which I think is like very much in relationship to the COVID pandemic, was the politics of it all, and how politics have just become more and more prevalent in people's everyday lives. And it is extremely divisive in America right now. Like, you are either on each other's team or you're not, really. Like, and I think that makes people scared to be vulnerable because they don't want to be judged or outcast because they are sharing things that the other person might have strong political opinions about. I mean, just COVID as an example, there were people who were like really scared of getting sick or really scared of getting their relatives sick and wouldn't go to events, or, like they just wouldn't do things. And I think it offended other people who were on the other side of the spectrum, who thought it was all a hoax or thought it wasn't that serious. And I think that made friendships and relationships really change and split and end, because I think people are just less understanding. It's very black and white in the political world now. Like I said, it's either you're on my team or you're not. And that divisiveness and that inability to see the other side's perspective on both sides of the aisle is just making it impossible to connect with anybody. It's making it impossible to open up to people who you're not sure if you agree with them on certain things or they agree with you. And I think it just makes it scary. It just makes socializing very scary. Yeah. The other element as I was talking, or another element as I was talking about earlier, is just aging and making friends in your 30s. I don't know how people are doing it. Like, I'm sure it's happening. And I have heard stories of people who like met their best friend in their whole life in their 30s or 40s. And I really hope that there's something like that for me out there. I do feel like I have a best friend, but us being so far apart is very hard. And I just hope that there's like another person maybe closer to me that I can connect with in a similar way. So yeah, just aging and getting older, I think, is adding to the loneliness thing. And I think a part of that is because you're kind of thinking about your life a little bit, at least I am, in the sense that, like, is this it? You know, like, is this what my life is going to look like from now on? You know, and that's a little bit scary because I think that just like exacerbates the feelings of fear that you're always going to be lonely, that you're never going to connect with anybody anymore because you're like, I'm in my 30s now and this is just what life is, you know? I think that's kind of what it feels like. Like, you're a third of the way through your life probably, and it just doesn't, like, nothing is ever going to be like your childhood or like your 20s again. So the rest of your life is just going to be a lot more of this. And that just, I think, is very scary and exacerbates the feeling of like you're alone in this world, you're alone on this journey. If you don't have that community of people around you to connect with. I also think that like mental health has taken an ultimate hit for people who are like millennials, because we have had to live through all of these traumas and things like that. And it's expensive to treat your mental health, which adds to the stress of it all. And like I said before, it's hard to meet people outside of work. It just is. Like, I am not the type of person that makes it a habit to go to certain things. Like, you know, everyone wants, I have recommendations that I am going to contradict right now, but like, recommendations are always like, you know, go to trivia nights or take a class. And I'm just not a person who makes a habit of those kinds of things. Like, even if I liked trivia, there is almost nothing I like enough to go do it once a week all the time. Like, once a week is a lot, in my opinion. But again, that's the only way to meet people, is proximity and consistency. You have to put yourself in the same place they are a lot. So it's just, I'm just not one of those people. Like, I do like to be at home. I like to do stuff at my home. I wish I had friends who wanted to do stuff at my home, you know, like a wine night every once in a while, or a craft night, or a puzzle night, or just hang out and make a fire, or just hang out and watch a show. Like, those are the kinds of friends that I'm looking for, but it's weird to invite a stranger over to your house to do those kinds of things, I think. And I just don't know how people who are fully remote really do it. They just must have a lot more ambition to make a new friend. But yeah, it's hard. Making friends in your adulthood is hard. And a lot of the friends that I've had for more than 5 years. And in the last 5 years, I've probably made like 1 or 2 new friends that I feel are really truly friends, and I don't see them that often, and I met them through work. So it's just a lot. Like it's hard, and I don't know. I feel like I'm trying a lot of things to make friends, and I have been trying a lot of things since I moved to Santa Barbara, but it's just difficult to really like solidify those connections without more frequency in proximity. But I don't want this whole episode to be like sad and pessimistic. So I do have some recommendations. My whole philosophy with these kinds of things is that take what works for you, try something new to make a friend if you're struggling with this, and leave the rest. You know, if you don't want to do that, or you like one part of the advice and not the other, then take what works and leave the rest. So I have 3 major recommendations for people who are struggling to make friends, or if they work from home like me and they want to try something new to connect with people more, and to overcome these symptoms of loneliness. The first recommendation is that you get a pet. Having something to take care of, it definitely helps. It's kind of infinitely beneficial, just having a little living creature that loves you unconditionally. And I will say, like, I have had cats for 11 years now, and I love them. I do, but they are just not the same as having a dog. And once I got my dog Penny, I think my life just got exponentially better. I mean, there were a lot of other things that happened around that time, or like a few months after I got her, but I think she just makes my life so much more wonderful, because every morning she wakes up and she's excited to see me. She's excited to be alive. She's like jumping around, waiting for me to take her outside. She's jumping up on me. She's giving me kisses. I'm petting her. Like, it is just great to have a little creature that is just so excited for the world and makes your life seem better because you get to take care of them. The other thing with that is that when you have a dog, you can use that to try to meet other people. You can go to a dog park, you can go to a regular park and, you know, do dog things there. And there are people with dogs everywhere. There really are. I see people all the time at the park and talk to them and say hi to them. And I wouldn't say like I'm best friends with any of them, but it is nice to have even those minor connections. That is a huge element to like dealing with loneliness, is if you can even get like small connections with people in your community, it can be really helpful. So if you're going to take your dog out, like just try to have a conversation with somebody who you see out, like say hello and stuff like that. Outside of the pet thing, like also like when you go to the grocery store or something, or go to the coffee shop, like try to have a conversation with somebody in line or with the cashier or something like that. Those little minor connections do help with boosting how you feel and feeling less lonely, because you do get to feel like you have a connection to your community. The second piece of advice or second recommendation that I have is to try new hobbies. Now, this I think is where people are going to run into struggles, but like I have tried a lot of new things. So I took a ceramics class maybe like 2 years ago when I first came to Santa Barbara. I signed up for a ceramics class and I did it for like a year, and I did meet people there. I did meet people who I talked to and like have seen again, and that was great. It's just I stopped taking it because I had been taking it with a friend, and then my friend wasn't taking it anymore. So it was like harder for me to do it alone. And I did it alone one semester, and I did talk to other people. But it's the thing about trying new hobbies like that is that you're not going to be good at it at first, and it's going to feel like you're surrounded by experts or just people who are generally better than you at it. And for me, I really struggle with that. I struggle with like not being good at things when I first try them, or feeling like I'm not doing a good job. So things like that is just, it's a little difficult for me. But I will say, like, I think it is the best way to meet people is to try new things. Like, for example, like if you're into crafting, I would say ceramics is a great idea. Reading, there is a very lively book community online. And I think you would be surprised at like the level at which you could get into a community like that. Same with like junk journaling. I recently started junk journaling, and there is a big community of people who really enjoy it, and like you swap junk and share stuff, and like you share your pages and you share your memories and stuff like that. So it is like, those are types of things. If you're crafty, if you're athletic, but you haven't tried anything new recently, there are sports everywhere, adult sports like softball and soccer, and even in Santa Barbara, there's some rugby teams, which I've been thinking about. A little scared, but I've been thinking about it because I just really miss playing a sport, but I'm really nervous about hurting myself, especially hurting my knee. But that's not what this is about. The other types of things that you can try if you're athletic, if you're really trying to try something new, is rock climbing. Bouldering, I think it's really difficult, but it's actually really fun, and the community is really welcoming. So I would also say pickleball. Obviously, it's just so popular right now. You know what's funny about pickleball, just as an aside, is that it's so popular, but I don't know a single person who actually plays it. I know people who have talked about wanting to play it, but I don't know anybody who actually consistently plays it. So it's funny to hear all the time that it is like the fastest growing sport in America. But pickleball and tennis, I think, are good sports to try because you can get like used rackets and stuff like that. And there are public tennis courts everywhere. So those are some options. Yeah. So trying something new, trying out a new hobby is great because it puts you in a position of learning. And if you notice that there are other people who are new in the thing that you are doing, like if you're taking a class and you notice that there's somebody else who's new, it's a perfect opportunity to bond with somebody because they're also learning. So you're able to make a connection with someone that way. It's also beneficial because you're trying something that you're interested in, and that automatically means that the people there are going to be interested in something similar to you. And chances are you will find other crossovers in your interests. The third recommendation that I have is that you should try to join a community. This kind of goes into what I was talking about with the previous recommendation, but more specifically, there are communities that are like on Facebook and things like that are specifically made for making new friends or like having a connection with other people who are similar to you. So for example, there are a bunch of like girl groups on Facebook. There's like Santa Barbara, like girls and women in Santa Barbara. And a lot of the time people will go on there and like coordinate events and like set up what I would just say are like dates, like, but for a group, like group hangs basically. I've gone to a few. So like I went and saw Wicked with a couple of women in the group. And then I've also hosted a few events. I've hosted some clothing swaps, and it's just a great way to like consistently see the same people. And they also do other events, like they do like weekly walking groups, and there's a lot of times where they're just doing walks in the foothills or a hike. They also do wine nights. So there are communities online specifically built for meeting new people and trying to make friends in the area, especially if you live somewhere that like there are a lot of transplants, or if you live near a city, because there are constantly new people coming to those areas and not knowing anybody and looking for someone, or just looking for people with similar interests to them. These groups can be really fun. So I'm trying to get myself to go to more of the events. It's just, I find that I'm not interested in some of the things that they do. And then I will finally get the courage to host something. And then I feel like better about it. But it feels like a lot of pressure sometimes hosting. So it's just a lot. It's a learning curve, you know? Those are my 3 recommendations. So I hope that helps. I hope if anybody is feeling lonely, they know that they're not alone in that. They're not the only one. I think it's just something that's happening right now because we're in this era of like having access to connect with people, but not actually able to make meaningful connections. And it's just tough. Like, I get it. I'm there with you. I think a lot of people are. As we age, it might just get harder until there's a point when like we'll all have more free time to be able to come back together. And I think that this just is a part of life and it's a part of growing up a little bit. And it's hard for me to say that because I don't want to get old. All right, I'm going to do a quiz because I didn't do one for my last episode. Okay, this quiz is called Wiener Schnitzel, Nintendo, and Kelly Clarkson. The first question is, complete the well-known phrase, a leopard never changes its blank. And the options are tail, spots, teeth, fur. I think the answer is spots. Yeah. Next question. Where does Wiener Schnitzel come from? The options are Austria, France, the Netherlands, or Denmark. Oh, I hate geography. Schnitzel. I think that's Denmark. It's either Denmark or the Netherlands. I'm going to let that sit for a second and I'll come back to it. Which famous actress shares her name with William Shakespeare's wife? The options are Helen Mirren, Anne Hathaway, Julia Roberts, or Nicole Kidman. Pretty sure it's Anne Hathaway. Yes, that's right. What's the name of the bear from the Jungle Book? The options are Louie, Blue, Baloo, or Rodney, and it's Baloo. The next one involves a picture. It says, which gaming console uses this controller? And it's a gray controller with 3 handles, basically, like 2 on the side and 1 bigger one in the middle with a joystick in the middle, and then the cross on the left-hand side. And it looks like maybe the power button or the start button in the middle, and then 4 yellow keys, and then a green and blue key on the right-hand side. And the options are Nintendo Switch, Wii, Nintendo 64, or Nintendo GameCube. Well, it's not the Switch or the Wii. I don't actually know what the GameCube controller looked like, so I'm going to go with Nintendo 64. That was correct. I guess I could just show the picture. I'm not even sure. I can't. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, next question is, which gland regulates metabolism? The options are pituitary, adrenal, thyroid, and hypothalamus. I honestly have no idea. I'm going to say thyroid. That was right. Nice. True or false? Kelly Clarkson won the first season of American Idol. Who? I think that's true. I think it's true. Yes. I couldn't remember if she was the first or second season, but I did just listen to a podcast the other day where they talked about Kelly Clarkson, and like the guy said, like, I felt like Kelly Clarkson when like the balloons were raining down, and that's funny. Okay, next question. Which of the following sports is not part of a triathlon? The options are biking, swimming, weightlifting, or running. The answer is weightlifting. Okay, I have one question left, and it's the schnitzel one. Gosh dang it. I don't know it. It's either the Netherlands or Denmark, I think. So I'm going to say Denmark. Frick, it was Austria. I'm bad at that. I'm so bad at geography. It's so stupid. Okay, I got 7 out of 8, and it does say that I'm a genius, and I scored better than 79% of all other quiz takers. So I'll take it. You know, I feel like that's really where I land, is like a solid A-. Like A- is great for me. Anyways, that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry it's a little bit of a depressing topic. I'll try to make things a little bit more fun. I'm pretty sure that the next episode is going to be my 10th episode. So I'm going to try to do something exciting, maybe? Question mark. Anyways, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, rate, review, and subscribe. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find the link in the description box below. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Okay, bye. Bye, Mom. I love you.